Mack Titan, 10 tons of chrome and steel, packing 605 horses and a 200-ton towing capacity. They custom build these heavy haulers here at Mack's assembly plant in Macungie, Pennsylvania, cranking out each one in less than 3 days. That is, if everything goes according to plan.
Maintenance, electrical, Tom, we have a problem.
New orders are squeezing an already tight production schedule.
We are under the gun as far as getting the order pushed through.
Building some of the toughest trucks on the planet will push this ultimate factory to the limit. It's 7 a.m. and production is in full swing. This 93,000 square meter facility is a powerhouse of manufacturing. Around 1,000 workers, manning numerous assembly lines and production facilities. This factory is powered by sweat and elbow grease. Production of Mack's famous line of trucks is done almost entirely by hand. And it's cab production manager John Tosh's job to keep things humming.
We are every day very actively looking at the schedule, making sure we've got the right amount of units that are going to be placed on the line, and that forecasting parts coming in here to make sure that there's no hiccups with supplier issues. How's it going, guys? I will typically walk this line several times a day. How's it going today? Just to look at the quality, talk with the supervisors. How you doing today, all right? Try to understand their concerns. Are we meeting the targets?
The team builds all their heavy-duty trucks in this assembly plant. From the Granite, the workhorse of the Mack line, to the Pinnacle, a thoroughbred made for long hauls on the open road. But today, the team has an order for something special.
It just looks mean. It's everything a truck should be.
Meet the Titan, the new flagship of the Mack brand. A 10-ton behemoth designed and built to handle some of the toughest jobs on the planet. From the dust and heat of a mining operation to the slick forest roads of the Northwest logging industry. When the work is extreme, this is the truck for the job. It all starts with the chassis. Unit manager Brian Hawk arrives at the loading dock to meet the Titan chassis. Over the next 6.5 hours, he'll walk the Titan through the manufacturing process. 2 separate assembly lines will handle the build. One constructing the chassis, the other the cab. 2/3 of the way through the build, the 2 sections will merge and continue down the line until a fully functional Titan drives off the end.
Coming up.
Right now you're looking at our Titan heavy-duty, heavy-hauling truck. This is the chassis being unloaded right now. Seeing a truck that's got 273-inch wheelbase, and we'll have a 605 horsepower engine installed in it.
This 3,600 to 4,500 kilogram frame forms the backbone of the Titan's heavy hauling ability. The standard chassis can be reinforced to give the Titan maximum stability to take on the toughest jobs.
We actually can have anywhere from a single liner, which is just a single piece of frame rail on either side, or we can do what's a triple liner, where they'll add 2 more layers of rail inside to add for extra strength.
A large crane lifts the chassis and places it on a set of buggies. When it touches down on the assembly track, the build is on. On the other side of the factory, a trailer full of cabs arrives.
We will bring these in and remove them off their shipping racks.
take the cabs and land them onto a paint rack, which are actually wheeled racks.
A raw cab can weigh up to 227 kilograms. But once fully loaded, it can tip the scales at 3 times that much. So to get it around a factory the size of 20 football fields, every cab gets its own set of wheels. The cabs arrive already primed, but to stand up to conditions in the real world, each one needs a strong outer skin.
The next step is the people in the paint department, as you'll see, they'll clean the cabs and get them ready to go through the spray booth.
The paint department is where the customer can really personalize a vehicle. Many companies have switched to automation, but Mack still paints all its vehicles by hand.
I've been painting for almost 20 years. I don't know, I mean, you just gotta have a knack for it. It's one of those things. Well, right now we got a special color coming up in about 10 jobs. Pull it off the shaker. Come with me. Take it into the paint vault here.
Popular colors like white and red are already loaded into massive drums. Lesser used colors are queued up in what the crew calls the vault.
So what we do with the special colors is, we bring them into the vault here. You lower the paddles. There's an agitator in there. You turn this button on here. Keeps the paint spinning and moving around, keeps the life in it.
Depending on the day's orders, technicians can load several colors into the system. A central computer allows them to monitor each job and have the correct color queued up when it hits the booth.
This is the brainchild of it right here. This tells you everything to do. You put your times in, all your paints are in the bottom, like there's Mack red, Mack white, UPS brown, and clear.
A good paint job starts with the prep. It's Dean Turner's job to make sure every cab hits the booth clean.
This is your tack-off area. This is the last stop before paint. We're getting all the dirt off of it, any residue from shipping them in. This is your Titan, Mack's biggest and baddest.
The cab heads into the booth, and the painters get to work.
It's one hell of a truck, and when it's coming down the road, you're gonna notice it.
With a lot of surface area to cover, these guys are really under the gun.
We get 6 minutes and 15 seconds to paint the whole truck. And right now, there's 4 minutes and 40 seconds left. From here, it'll go through the oven to dry. It'll take about 35 minutes till it gets through the oven, and then it'll go down to the inspector.
They paint most cabs a solid color. But when a customer wants a little extra detail, the paint department turns to a seasoned vet.
They call it a striper. I do the striping work. I don't paint them, but I'll lay all the designs out for whatever a customer wants.
Duff Schweitzer has been working in the paint department for 10 years. His work can be seen on Mack trucks crisscrossing the entire country.
I done ones that was 3-tone. It was pink and purple and a dark blue. And I done one that was bronze and orange and brown. I mean, there's some crazy color combinations too. It's like to each his own, you know? It's like, whatever.
The work is detailed, even artistic. But for Duff, it's just another job in the assembly process.
No, I don't consider myself an artist. I just can put a straight line on something, that's all. It's not rocket science.
Fire.
Cabs bake in the oven for up to 40 minutes, then exit into Kathleen Chrisman's turf. As one of Mack's paint inspectors, nothing gets by her without a thorough examination.
What I look for in a cab, basically, is under the doors to make sure, a lot of times things will run in here, around the top of the door. And what I'll do is I'll take it to the side, because if there are any runs, there's a reflection on every cab. You would see the paint runs or the sags here.
Every paint job Kathleen approves must meet Mack standards and her own.
This is being rejected for paint dirt. There's a lot of dirt on this fender right here. That's not acceptable. So they will repaint it.
They'll re-sand this rejected hood and send it through the paint booth again. The Titan cab soon rolls into Kathleen's inspection area.
I'll go around the back, across the roof, around the windows.
She knows all the tricks to catching a poor quality paint job.
On a white cab, because the cab underneath is black, the unpainted product, it will actually look blue under the lighting if there's light paint.
In a few hours, this cab has a date with a Titan chassis. If it's rejected now, finishing this build on time is a long shot. It seems the boys in the paint booth are on their game.
This looks good. I don't have any issues with this.
The Titan cab gets the thumbs up and heads off on an epic journey through a production facility the size of 20 football fields. 2 chassis assembly lines and a main cab assembly line fill the bulk of the space. But the facility also contains the engine groom line, the tire prep facility, and the sleeper cab line. Here, workers build some of the most luxurious accommodations on wheels.
How you doing, okay?
Leonard Harris oversees the sleeper cab line, where they manufacture sleeping compartments for Mack's long-haul tractor trailers.
The good thing about these units is that the customer can probably order anything they want. Different sound systems, if they want a subwoofer with an amp on it, the regular radio stations, they can control their air conditioning from the back.
A long-haul trucker might spend 150 days a year on the road, so it's important the truck they live in during that time offers all the amenities of home.
This one will come with a refrigerator inside this unit over here. This is a little storage compartment, mattress, cabinets.
Like the truck it'll be placed on, many of the sleeper cabs can be built to the customer's personal specs, from interior finish to stereos. Leonard and Mack want drivers to feel right at home.
The good thing about Mack trucks is say, what do you want inside your truck? We custom build it for you.
After they finish tricking out the sleeper unit, it's time to marry it to the cab. This unit will enclose over 9 square meters. Across the factory floor, the Titan cab hits the assembly line. It takes each truck 5 to 6 hours to travel down the cab line. During that time, workers install over 1,000 different parts. So it's up to materials techs like Dale Crazley to keep the parts stocked and the assembly line in motion.
My job is to supply from the paint booth all the way up to cab mount with any material that they need.
The system they use to call for parts might seem low-tech, but it works.
There's 3 or 4 flags at the top. If the guys need something, they pull it. That means I go there, find out what it is they need, and get it.
When a flag goes up, Dale is off to the races. The line workers might build these trucks, but it's the materials techs who keep the assembly line fed and the whole process in motion.
If I don't do my job right, and that part does not get on that truck, that means I gotta stop the line. Stressful, yeah. Challenging, I would say, more than anything.
Nearby on the chassis assembly line, the Titan frame gets fitted with its air system. A series of tanks and hoses that control the important functions throughout the truck.
This is airline piping on our Titan chassis. Unlike the car industry, which all your brakes run off of hydraulics, airlines are what determine your braking and your stopping, as well as a lot of your accessories. Your seat that rises up and down, air horns, anything that's air-related.
The Titan's air system also controls a unique suspension. 2 sets of inflatable airbags located at key points on the chassis allow for a smooth ride and assist the truck with its heavy hauling duties.
The driver is actually able to hit a switch when he has a full load on, that he's able to hit the switch and readjust his suspension with a suspension height control to handle a heavier load.
To build a truck like this, everything must go according to plan. If a part doesn't arrive or an installation is delayed, the whole build grinds to a halt. So a complicated build like the Titan gets its own personal mechanic.
I brought this back behind here. They had it in front, the T. The red one might be long enough, but the black's too short.
When it comes to building Titans, Mike Weaver is Mack's secret weapon. A crack mechanic that knows this truck from bulldog to
We have
bumper.
enough of that positive cable there. How much will the black reach out there?
Guys like Mike, they know pretty much every job in their area. They have a good basis and understanding of how it takes to build a truck from start to finish. So there's a confidence level when you throw one of those guys in there to help out.
Mike keeps an eye on the chassis work, while Brian heads back to check in on the cab. Back on the cab assembly line, the Titan moves into the light stand. It's time for this truck to get some bling. A series of LED clearance lights and 2 sets of massive chrome air horns. On the road, you'll have no trouble hearing and seeing this bad boy coming. The Mack truck assembly plant is like an army. To survive, managers must keep it constantly staffed and resupplied. There's no room for delays.
Hey, Brad, Kevin here. Holly Snyder, she's got jury duty today, so she will not be in.
Let's send over John Freisel to the C line. Some of these lines, what you're looking at is under a 6-minute cycle time, so very critical to get people moving right away to get them into those positions so you don't miss anything.
John and Kevin get a handle on the day's staffing issues.
That puts us even for the day.
Yes.
That's amazing.
But the next challenge is always just around the corner.
Unique with that group, it's, excuse me. Go ahead.
My cranes aren't working this morning.
Okay, Dave, who's been called and are they on the way?
The crane that places cabs on the sleeper line is malfunctioning. And with just minutes to go till the opening siren, John needs to get it up and running quickly.
Go ahead.
What is the status right now?
A delay now would stop the Titan build and put the squeeze on an already tight production schedule.
I came in this morning and the switch wasn't operational. That track is vital to getting the right cab lined up and ready to mount on a chassis.
Electrician, Thomas, please come in. Thomas, come in. We have a problem with our turnover up top. Can you come over and give us a hand?
Stoppages can be costly to the bottom line. So a dedicated team of mechanics like Thomas Wright are on call to respond to any problems.
We're always aware of the dangers, but it's also we have to try to get the plant up and going as quickly and safely as possible.
Today, it's a simple fix. He locates the problem and corrects it within a few minutes.
Once we found that the power line was clear, we replaced the fuse and try to re-energize the system again.
With the crane up and running, production is back on track. Across the floor, the Titan cab gets ready for its dashboard. A mass of wires and circuits that make up its nerve center.
The whole truck can be programmed right through this. We hook up a laptop, we'll program the engine, all the components it needs, ABS, even the radio gets programmed. Today, veteran Mark Connors mans dashboard prep.
But as a member of Mack's Flex team, he's trained to fill in just about anywhere on the line.
I've done every single job on this line. I think I'm probably the only person that's done that. I can go anywhere, do anything, and that's pretty much what we do. Someone's not here, going to do the job, you just step in, step up, and take care of business.
Mark's vast experience gives him a unique perspective on the product he's building.
It's just amazing to see all these thousands of parts turn into a vehicle that can go down the road. And the best part is, we do get time to drive them. Like, I'll work down in Final, fix the trucks, and to go out and drive, that is the best. You hop into a 605 horsepower Titan and take it out for a test drive, oh my God, the power is incredible.
With the prep work complete, the dashboard gets placed in the cab. Each job on the line is timed down to the second. It takes a certain personality just to survive.
If you're not a person, that can move fast or quick, then this isn't really the job for you.
At 62 years old, Debbie Miller is an unstoppable force.
Fuel tanks, I put in airlines. I used to fill the big pumpkins on the chassis with the gear oil, so I've done an awful lot of different jobs here.
Keeping up with her is a full-time job. Proof that on the Mack assembly line, it's more about hustle than muscle.
Okay, on to the plugs, and then it starts all over again.
Mack's assembly line relies on its workers, not automation. It's a function of the product they're manufacturing.
When you offer the kind of customization that we do at Mack, where essentially every truck that goes down the line is unique, it's almost impossible to fully automate your processes.
Workers here are proud that all Macks sold in North America are made in the USA.
You know, a lot of us take a lot of pride in these trucks. You know, they're handmade, custom made.
For a business in the manufacturing industry, it's a label that doesn't come easy.
We think that we can remain competitive building trucks here in the United States, but to do it, we have to work harder and we have to work smarter than our competition that's manufacturing in lower cost environments.
That hard work is evident on the cab line, where they fit the Titan with its side view mirrors. Around front, they begin installation of the headlights. While most work here is done by hand, a few jobs require a little extra help. These mechanical assists take the grunt work out of difficult installations. They help install the Titan's heavy windshield quickly and efficiently. Once in place, workers seat the gaskets into the frame by extracting ropes built into the rubber. A few careful whacks, and it's on its way. On each side of the cab, workers place two massive chrome filters. They help set the Titan apart from other Mack products. But they're not just decorative, they're also functional, serving as the Titan's primary air intake. The cab is coming together. Across the plant floor, the Titan chassis is making a similar transformation. A trip through chassis paint, and the Titan is ready for its exhaust system. Now the Titan chassis is ready for its most important addition yet, the heart of this beast, the engine. This is the biggest engine Mack has ever produced, an inline six-cylinder monster that generates the Titan's 605 horsepower. The process begins with a cast iron engine block. On the assembly line, they place the major parts by hand, where critical components are installed with a precision only a machine can attain. Next, the engines hitch a ride on an AGV. These roving robots carry the engines through a series of manual stations. The AGVs follow wires buried in the factory floor and time the movements of each engine perfectly. Once at a station, they can lift and rotate them for easy installations. Over the course of several hours, an army of technicians build up and inspect the engines. Most of these techs have been with Mack for years. But for many, the relationship with the company extends even beyond that.
Back in '62, my father was hired here, and right after that, his 3 brothers became employed here. So at one point in time, my dad and all his brothers were employed here.
Baron Eichelberger installs timing gear plates on the MP engines. He's been at Mack for 12 years, but his memories of being a Mack man go back as far as he can remember.
Going down the road when I was little, Dad would always tell me, now there's one I made, get him to blow at you. And we would always do this, going down the road, and the truck drivers would always just blow the horn and wave.
Darren's family takes great pride in their work and in the company itself. It's a pride his father took with him even after he retired, and his uncle beyond that.
Back in 1990, my dad's brother, Buck Eichelberger, was killed in an automobile accident. When he passed away and his wife had his tombstone made up, she had the Mack emblem inscribed into his tombstone to let people know how proud he was of where he worked at.
Once Darren finishes the timing plate install, the engine moves on through a series of manual stations for finishing. Then takes to the air. After applying a standard coat of Mack Red, it's ready to ship off to the Makunji plant for installation. But first, selected engines get tested in Mack's new state-of-the-art engine lab, located right next door.
Initiate test. We have cell power. Engine going to start.
Here in the lab, engineers put the MP series engines through the ringer, running them at temperatures and RPMs they would rarely face in the field.
1635.
Yeah, you're hot.
1635.
Bring it down, bring it down, bring it down. We already hit the limit.
We push these engines to their very limits so that we can be sure that this engine is able to deliver what our customers demand.
During the day, the workers at the lab and on the factory floor run a serious operation. But after hours, some of the engineers and technicians get together to blow off a little steam. Mechanic Craig Morris and engineer John Gibble might seem like the odd couple, but when it comes to getting the most out of a vehicle, these two are a match made in heaven.
We rented the local dragway as a morale booster, and, you know, it's a Mack truck, you have to take a truck down, and we didn't want to take a stock one, so year by year we did a little more to it, a little more to it, and this is the finished product.
Combining technical savvy and hands-on mechanical ability, these two came together to create one bad drag racing machine.
Most of the time we spend our days squeezing fuel economy out of engines, but today we get to have some fun and squeeze some power.
Craig and John have a big race coming up, so they're hard at work getting the most out of their rig. Their latest idea, switch out the double rear tires for a single wide one. It'll save some weight and give them a little more jump off the starting line. The only thing left to do now is fire it up and take it out back for a test drive. To improve performance, they've removed all the standard emissions controls. It makes this rig fast, but not clean or street legal. So on a strip of blacktop on company grounds, John and Craig put her through the paces. It's a great practice run. It won't be long before they really put her to the test at the racetrack.
You got her dialed in good. Ready for the drag strip.
Let's go make some smoke.
Yes, indeed.
Mack engines from the Hagerstown facility arrive at the Macungie plant, where they head to the start of the engine grooming line. It's here workers install the finishing parts and perform final inspections. Once cleared, they head to the engine install station. The Titan's MP10 super engine is lifted and readied for installation. This is a delicate dance. While these men reach into the chassis to clear cables and hoses, 1,300 kilograms dangle above their heads. It's a maneuver that takes timing and trust. And once the engine is in, the work at this station has only just begun.
We just drop the engine in, make all of our connections. You hook up your fuel hoses, coolant hoses, and power steering so that the truck is all completely piped, and we're good to go to the next stage.
The engine install on the Titan is almost complete. The only thing left to do here is to strap on the Titan's massive fuel tanks. At 443 liters each, a trip to the pump to fill these up could set you back $1,000 or more. Before the Titan moves on, Mike and Brian give the truck a once-over and catch a problem that could have proved disastrous down the line.
Okay, we found during the pre-engine drop inspection that the coolant filter for the Titan engine was damaged. It looks like it was over tightened by our powertrain facility.
The crew changes out the filter and works to complete all the engine connections. Nearby, the Titan cab comes off the line right on schedule. It's picked up and brought over to the chassis line. It's time for these two Titans to meet. It's easy to see now that this truck has a very different profile than the others on the line.
The cab will sit about 7 inches higher than a normal highway truck. Most of that is because of the engine size. The first time I drove one out on the road, you pulled up to a red light and sitting next to you was another truck. You just tower over them.
Next up, the hood. But before they install it, they top it with a very special item.
Take a lot of pride in putting the Bulldog on. I mean, it's the trademark of Mack trucks, Bulldog tough.
The history of this emblem dates back to World War I. Mack trucks utilized on the front lines were nicknamed Bulldogs by British soldiers, a reference to their toughness and to the resemblance of the truck's hood to an English bulldog's snout. Since 1932, every Mack driven off the line has had one of these little fellas leading the way.
It's a twofold purpose. For one, it's what enables us to open the hood. It's our hood grab handle, but as well as it's the icon that represents Mack and that Bulldog toughness.
The Bulldog speaks to the history of the Mack name, but it also tells a lot about each truck. A silver dog means that one of the powertrain elements, such as the transmission, was made by another manufacturer. And a gold dog?
100% Mack motor and Mack transmission.
With the placement of the hood, this build enters the home stretch. But a ton of work is left before this truck can drive off the line. Next up, tires. The tire build facility is located adjacent to the chassis assembly line. Here, customers can choose from several different tire, wheel, and tread combinations. Every vehicle coming off the line is fitted with 10 or more tires. So to keep up with demand, the tire facility is partially automated. They load tires and wheels onto the assembly line. Where they're threaded by a rotating arm. After inflation, they take a ride on a conveyor system and are delivered to the assembly line right on schedule. This Titan is going to be used for construction, so it needs wheels that are strong and light with both on and off-road capabilities. Each back-braking tire can weigh up to 59 kilograms. So the tire team has its own set of assists to help with the job. They sure beat the old technique.
This is just what they used to about 12 years ago, something like that. You put the tire, you roll it underneath the stick, all right, and then instead of having those cranes, you know, using it like that, you just put it on the tire like this, hold it, and then just use leverage to pop it up on the rim. It takes a lot of practice.
Once seated on the hub, it's time to lock these tires down. For that, the wheel crew calls in the big guns, the mother of all lug wrenches.
I mean, it's this big because each one has an independent drive, and it just pretty much tightens all of the lugs at the same time.
Driving 6 lugs at once ensures the tires get seated evenly on the hub. For a truck, tires dictate performance. Whether you're digging for traction on a muddy logging road, hauling huge payloads over open highways, or burning rubber on hot asphalt, the proper tire makes all the difference. It's race day at the Mason-Dixon Dragway in Boonesboro, Maryland. Craig and John are here to put their dragster to the test. With open admission today, all kinds of other vehicles show up to compete. But before their heat, Craig and John do some final checks.
You want to give her one last tech inspection?
Yeah, let's take a look.
Okay.
They've worked hard to fine-tune their rig. But across the parking lot, another Mack has shown up. It's a big V8 that'll give the guys a run for their money.
Well, he's got bigger turbo, injectors, and the pump turned up.
Yeah, he's definitely got us on horsepower, but he doesn't know some of the tricks we know, I think.
Right.
Despite being outgunned, Craig and John are confident their new additions will give them an edge.
We went from 2 tires to this single wide tire. We took the air pressure down just enough so that we have a good balance between slipping the wheel on the rim and slipping the rubber on the pavement. So hopefully we got her dialed in just right now after all this practice runs. I think we got a good chance. He's got 16.5 liters, we've got 12, but we've done a lot to our engine. We're going to push it pretty hard, and we're going to have fun either way.
It's race time. On the 402-meter track, competitors battle to see who is king of the road. Next up, the Macks. For the drag racing crew, it's all come down to this. Months of work and years of combined experience to coax 700 horsepower from the engine under this hood. But first, both trucks smoke their tires. It cleans the rubber for the race and heats it up for better traction. Powerful V8 takes the lead off the line. But down the stretch, it's no match for John and Craig's finely tuned engine. It's it's a come-from-behind win. A 402-meter trip in less than 16 seconds, reaching speeds of almost 160 kilometers per hour.
All right, man, good job.
Awesome, man.
How'd it go?
Cool.
Yeah, congratulations. He almost did.
Yeah, that was close. That was great.
That's a good kind of racing right there.
That was a good race.
Today, hands-on experience and technical know-how proved a potent formula for coming out on top. Back at the Mackay plant, another Mack truck nears the finish line. The tires are on, and this Titan build is almost complete. But as the end of the line comes into view,
Ronnie Baker.
Brian and Mike hit a snag.
Maintenance cleanup. I need a maintenance cleanup at engine start on the H-line. Got coolant leak on the floor.
Coolant from the engine is leaking out onto the factory floor.
Ronnie, it's Hawk. Hey, we're ready to engine start here. Can you stop and pick up Weaver? We need to pull a plug from up in the motor room to stop this engine.
To get the Titan off the line before it shuts down the assembly track, Mike and Brian will need to handle this on the fly.
Right now there's an open port on the back of the engine for coolant. And we're gonna try and plug it off. I got about 35 minutes to this truck is supposed to drive off the line.
They rig a length of hose as a temporary fitting. For now, it'll plug the port and keep the build in motion.
Out of the way, Clink.
Mack prides itself on spotting any problems during the build. But every truck that rolls off the line gets double-checked in the dynamometer. A high-tech stall that simulates the incredible forces a Mack will face in the real world. They max out the RPMs and horsepower. Any problems with the build should show up here before they deliver the truck to the customer. With the engine port plugged, they fill the Titan with its fluids.
You're getting fuel, diesel fuel, you have the urea, and they're also about to charge the air conditioning as well. So all of your fluids, because we're about to start the engine, it'll be the first time we start this engine.
They add fuel to the Titan's massive tanks.
You're gonna put air into the truck, push the fuel up, all the air out of the line to bring the fuel up to the fuel filter. And once the fuel gets up here, we'll be able to start this baby up.
Workers scramble to complete final installations, and everyone prepares for this Titan to take its first breath. With the turn of a key, 605 horses roar to life, and the truck rolls off the line. Another Titan is born.
6.5 hours ago, you had some steel and some connecting parts, and you have a fully drivable truck now. It'll ship off to the customer in the next day.
The men and women here at Mack can be proud, knowing they had a hand in building some of the most powerful trucks ever to hit the road.